Here's my little plot update, complete with washing line. Very unattractive. So the beds have been mulched. That's with my own homemade compost. I did that the other day, and that will sit there till I plant all my annual cosmos and things in the bed. And then on the veggie side, this is the onion tunnel. With the wind at the moment, God, I'm having to keep putting these stones back. It keeps whipping the fleece out. But actually underneath, along there, they're looking really good. Lots of different ones, reds, white Paris ones. There's some garlic, spring onions. Can't think what else is in there now. Oh, some pickling ones. They're looking great. And then under here, I've got some different types of lettuces. They're all under fleece. Beetroot. And then I've got beetroot on that bed as well. Now this is a bit of an experiment here because I've popped some beetroot out now, but this bed along here doesn't really get too much sun till a bit later on in the year. So I'm kind of winging it. I'm not sure whether they'll like it or not, but I'm a bit tight on space because I've used this huge tunnel for all my onions. I've probably, to be fair, been a bit excessive with onions, but there we go. So yeah, I'm a bit tight on space. So I've just tried the beetroot over there just to see, but I have put a few in here as well. So the garlic is growing. These little nasturtiums keep popping up. These are self-seeded. They're really cute. They're probably not liking the cold weather at the minute, but there we go. And then over here I've got borage and calendula that I've planted out now, and some limnanthes, and these don't mind the cold at all, so they'll be fine. There's some hyssop here as well. God, what a beautiful day. Cold, but the wind has dropped, so it's perfect. Right, so let's have a look at my favourite part of the garden. It was -5 in here last night, according to the temperature gauge, so just as well I wrap these hotbeds up. Yeah, so the seedlings here on each side, they're wrapped up every night, even if they're on a hot heat mat or on the hotbed that's at the end there, just because if the temperatures do drop that low, they just appreciate being snug. It keeps the warmth in, and you know, it is very easy to do, so I do that every night. Let's have a look round what I've got. So, oh, this is, I've got loads of these scattered around the greenhouse. These are my beer traps. So they work perfectly to grab all the slugs, and they, I fill them with beer, pop them in the ground, and then by the morning there's loads of little slugs in there, which is perfect to stop them munching on my plants. I've actually run out of beer, so I need to go and get some today. But so what have we got? I potted on some sorrel, so that's this here. Leaves are really delicious. They're kind of quite fleshy leaf, but they taste gorgeous. Almost a bit like, I suppose they taste a bit like an apple. These are ones that I will sell out the front of the house, and some of them are in the ground outside under fleece already. I've got a few bits and pieces here, some bergamot, one of my favourite flowers to grow. It's a herb obviously, but it's loved by the pollinators. The bees absolutely adore it, and it's such a pretty flower. It's like a purple kind of floofy, it's obviously a monarda, so it yeah, it's like a spire of floofy purpleness. Summer savoury, I've got some leftover onions that will go for sale and some calendula. So I've got a sale bench out the front of the house, which basically I put all my surplus stuff on. It's an honesty box, so people just give like £1 a plant or something. So it's quite popular and people come back every year, which is lovely. Some nigella there. This is my calabrese that I pricked out. If you remember, it was completely overgrown in a pot where I'd multi-sown it, so they're now sitting in modules, and they'll grow on in this little module tray until they're ready to plant out. I've got some beetroots, and then let's just get this fleece off. So I've got here tray of mainly annuals, Selene, Nicotania, Elysium. That's a really cute, Elysium is a really cute little tiny flower, but it lends itself really well to putting in a terracotta pot on the table, just really pretty. More calendula, which I'm obsessed with, gypsophila. That's kind of like a floofy, teeny flower, really pretty to pop in a pot. And then I've got some cornflowers, some Californian poppy. Now I've sown some Leonotis. Can't remember what the second name of it is, but I saw this at Charles Dowding's Homemakers at his home. That's not germinated yet. It was sown on the 20th of March, so nothing going on. So I'm really hoping that hasn't failed, but I'm really like scanning. There is just nothing happening there, so bit disappointing if that doesn't germinate. So on this heat mat, I've got some chilies and my tomatoes. These chilies are just spares. They're going for sale, lots of different types. And then I've got 30 different varieties of tomatoes this year. Some of them it's home safe seed, and some seed that I've bought, quite a lot of heritage ones. Just different shapes and sizes and colours. They all look so amazing that I couldn't help myself buy them. But they actually stay on the heat mat, and they stay with this lid. Let me just try and do that with the one hand without squashing things. This is the other side, so none of this side is on heat. They've all been on heat to germinate, but they're off heat now. They get obviously covered with fleece. So a load of coriander, a load of parsley, and some nasturtiums at the back. With the coriander, I try and resow it every couple of weeks because I use it a lot. In the summer months it tends to bolt, but I try and get a good supply going so I have a bit of succession. I've got some dwarf sunflowers here. Now these are called Little Dorrit. They're about 2 foot high. They're really stocky, and I really like them. With the nasturtiums, now these are begging to be planted out. I think I'll try and show you with one hand what the root looks like. You can see it's yeah, absolutely packed full of roots there, so that needs to be planted out, but it is too cold for them at the minute, so they'll just be potted on probably at some point later on today, and they can just stay in the greenhouse till they're ready. Now certainly with my vegetable seeds I do try and do a bit of timing, so I look at about, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks from sowing to planting out for most things. These lettuces were sown in February, and I've just popped them in the ground. Let's get one out. That's a perfect example of a seedling ready to go out into the ground. So it's got some really good strong root growth and really good leaf growth on top, very healthy. You can see the root ball is held together by the roots, and there's no sort of compost dropping off or falling apart. So that's a perfect time to pop that into the ground. So that's what was outside under the fleece, this exact size. And these ones here are just for sale. But yeah, so with the vegetables, I do try and get my timings right. With the flowers, not so much. So I tend to sow the flowers, they germinate, and then I have to grow them on in the greenhouse for a while before they're ready to go out. I think it's just a case of I can't help myself sow them. I just get overexcited and sow way too much seed too early. More calendula. That's only sown towards the end of March, so that's just starting to come up now. And then I've got, this tray is full of multi-sown leeks, and they're just starting to peek through. These trays actually are 40 cell trays from a company called Containerwise. They're really sturdy, they're brilliant, and they're going to last me years. So I just got hold of those this year, so I'm really pleased with those. But the modules are perfect for things like beans and peas, so they're lift that up, a little bit bigger. You can see the holes underneath, really easy to pop your finger in to poke the seedling out when it's ready. So with these leeks, they'll germinate in here, and then I'll put them outside in the cold frame, and they'll grow on, and then they'll just go straight without splitting up into the ground. This is spinach that needs to go out under fleece, probably outside. I always fleece my stuff. You don't have to, but particularly if you're sowing it, if you're planting it at this time of year with these cold nights. If you don't, I think you run the risk of things failing, and it just helps if you can get a little bit of fleece, peg it down, and it just helps keep the wind off. This is a tray of pricked out foxgloves and some cabbages. The foxgloves were sown on the 12th of February and I've just pricked them out yesterday. Then I've got some snapdragons and some more lemon bergamot. On to the big hotbed. This is now full of my aubergines and peppers that were multi-sown into modules and then pricked out. So these have now been potted on. So for example, that's an aubergine, big huge pot. And the reason I do pot them on like this is because quite a lot of them I leave in pots and grow them in the greenhouse in a pot, rather than planting them out into the bed. Particularly as I've got so many tomatoes this year, I think I might just keep the chillies and the aubergines in big pots. Not quite sure yet, but these will be really happy to grow on here. Loads of different types of chilies, lots of different types of aubergines, and then all the surplus things, because I'm absolutely useless at throwing things away, so I don't ever chuck out my seedlings really. These ones are all surplus to requirements, and these will go out in the bench for sale at some point later in the year. So, oh, well, let me just show you in here. So I've just got one set of chilies still going. These are being really slow. They're growing, but just taking their time. They're not ready to move on at all. Zimbabwe black. I've got some wiri chili that I'm really excited about. Apparently supposed to taste gorgeous. That's that one. And then Buena Mulata, which I don't think has even germinated yet. So we are still waiting. That might be a lost cause this year. Oh, that's not going back on. Finally, a bit basil, some sort of spare tomatoes coming up there. More tomatoes here. And then, oh, I've got some melon here that I pricked out. There's a video on my YouTube to show you how I did that. I grew several melon seeds in one pot and they've now been pricked out to grow on into these pots. They also need to stay on the hotbed. So at the moment, the hotbed is full of things that really need to stay. As the weather warms up, some of the chilies and the aubergines will move off in time. Hope you enjoyed looking round. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.